Cleveland Browns threw Shedeur Sanders into a dumpster fire of an offense, hoping he would fail so they could draft his replacement. It was sabotage, plain and simple. Well, today, the head coach, Kevin Stefanski, got fired via Twitter. Total chaos. But look at Shedeur's face. That is not a grieving quarterback. That is the smile of a man who just survived an inside job. The sabotage failed, Shedeur is still standing, and he just exposed the entire organization. Welcome back to NFL Zone Talks. We are diving deep into the truth behind the firing and Shedeur's savage reaction. Let's go. The NFL world just got rocked by a scandal no one saw coming, and it's brewing right in Cleveland. While other teams were wrapping up their seasons, something absolutely wild went down with the Browns, leaving the entire football community stunned. Shedeur Sanders, the young quarterback who's been under an immense spotlight, just gave one of the most brutally honest interviews in years. And let me tell you, the details he's revealing are scorching hot. Picture this: a rookie fighting for his career in the toughest league on the planet, trying to prove himself every single week, knowing every move is scrutinized. Now, imagine finding out your head coach got axed, not from your team, not from a meeting, but by scrolling through social media while you're in the locker room. That's exactly what happened to Shedeur Sanders. His reaction to this utter circus is something you absolutely need to hear. This isn't just about a coach getting fired. It's about a young man potentially set up to fail, who some are now saying survived an active sabotage attempt. He came out the other side with his head held high, his confidence unshaken. Kevin Stefanski's firing sent ripples through the NFL, but not for the obvious reasons. Sure, the Browns had another disappointing season, and their playoff dreams evaporated. But the real story, the one that has analysts, former players, and fans across the nation buzzing, is how this dismissal exposed something far darker about the Browns organization and their treatment of Shedeur Sanders. When Shedeur sat down for that post-game interview, you could see it in his eyes. This wasn't just a young quarterback going through the motions, giving those typical, canned answers. No, this was a man who had been through a trial by fire and was ready to speak his truth. And speak it, he did. He started with a maturity beyond his years, acknowledging that things are going to happen. That's just how the league is. But don't let that calm exterior fool you. What came next was a masterclass in saying everything while appearing to say nothing, in subtly calling out an organization while maintaining professional courtesy. The question on everyone's mind was loaded. Did Shedeur do enough to convince Andrew Barry, the Browns' general manager, that he should be the starter next season? His response was calculated, measured, and absolutely brilliant. He stated, "I think I did what I was able to do, and I definitely grew from a lot of things, and I got experience now. I'm always the same. Confidence-wise, I'm there. But that's not in my hands. That's not my decision. I can't speak on what other people feel." Let's break that down. Shedeur is essentially telling us he did everything within his power, and he knows his worth. But he's also subtly pointing out that the decision-makers, the ones controlling his destiny, might not be evaluating him fairly. He's planting seeds of doubt about whether the organization's assessment of him is based on his actual performance or on entirely different factors. And those other factors? Well, that's where things get really intriguing. What we witnessed this season in Cleveland wasn't merely a team struggling to find its identity. Many believe it was a systematic attempt by certain elements within the organization to set up Shedeur Sanders for failure. all to justify drafting his replacement. Let that bombshell sink in for a moment. A rookie quarterback thrust into one of the most challenging situations in football was potentially being sabotaged by the very people who were supposed to be helping him succeed. Consider the dire circumstances Shedeur faced all season. Limited weapons on offense, meaning he lacked the elite receivers that often elevate a quarterback's performance. A tired, beat-up offensive line that couldn't consistently give him the protection he needed to make plays downfield. And backup corners playing significant snaps because key defensive players were sidelined. The deck was stacked against him from day one, yet somehow he persevered. But here's where the story takes an even more dramatic turn. In that final game against Cincinnati, with both teams needing wins and the Browns fielding what was essentially a skeleton crew of their intended roster, Shedeur Sanders did something remarkable. He didn't crumble. He didn't give up. He didn't roll over and make it easy for the organization to justify moving on from him. Instead, he went out there and played his heart out, leading his team to victory in the final 2 games of the season. As one frustrated observer noted, Shedeur was supposed to go out there and lay down and give up his career, potentially, so the Browns could draft his replacement. Like they would do the same for their job. They ain't doing that. They ain't doing that. They knew what they was asking for. This is the real scandal. The unspoken expectation within certain corridors of the Browns organization was that Shedeur would fail spectacularly enough to make the decision to draft another quarterback an easy one. But Shedeur Sanders isn't built like that. He's a fighter, a competitor, and someone who absolutely refuses to be anyone's scapegoat. When asked about this being his first year with a different head coach than his father, Deion Prime Sanders, Shedeur showed incredible emotional intelligence. This year has been the first year with a different head coach than Pop. So that was the adjustment off RIP, and it was cool. It was straight, building different relationships in different circumstances, situations, which is always good to have those life goals and have those life lessons around just to have them as a building block. So then you're prepared in any situation. What he's describing here is pure resilience. He's talking about adapting to new systems, new personalities, new expectations, all while maintaining his core identity as a player and a person. That's not easy for a seasoned veteran, let alone a rookie. But Shedeur's upbringing, his time with his father at Jackson State and Colorado, clearly prepared him for exactly this kind of adversity. The elephant in the room, the question nobody wanted to ask directly, but everyone was thinking, finally surfaced. What does the franchise want from Shedeur moving forward? Have they told him he's their guy? His answer was revealing in its carefully chosen words. No, it just went off simple facts of from last year to this year. Not playing in the league, and this year playing in the league. Knowing what you like, what you don't like. Knowing what you do good, what you don't do good, and just knowing the strengths and weaknesses, and trying to know how people game plan. Also, knowing how teams will attack or take things away. What Shedeur is telling us here is that he's taking matters into his own hands. The organization hasn't committed to him? Fine. He's going to use this experience, this baptism by fire, to make himself undeniable. He's going to study the film, understand how defenses attacked him, learn from his mistakes, and come back stronger. He's not waiting for permission or validation from Andrew Barry or anyone else. He's betting on himself, the same way he's always done. But let's talk about the sheer disrespect of how the Stefanski firing was handled. Because this speaks volumes about the deep dysfunction in Cleveland. When asked who informed the players about the coaching change, Shedeur's response was deadpan and devastating. I think social media informed the players first. Then, after a pause, he added, "Now this is getting sticky business here. Let that marinate for a second." The players, the men who put their bodies on the line every Sunday, who bled and sweated for this organization, found out their head coach was fired the same way random fans in Nebraska did, by scrolling through Twitter or Instagram. No team meeting, no organizational announcement, no respect for the process or the people involved. Just another leak to the media that spread like wildfire, while the actual team was left in the dark. This is the kind of organizational incompetence that has defined the Cleveland Browns for decades. It's the kind of amateur hour operation that drives players away, that makes free agents think twice about signing there, that perpetuates the cycle of losing that has plagued that franchise for far too long. When pressed about what the team needs in its next head coach, Shedeur showed remarkable restraint and savvy. "I could just focus on me. I can just focus on what I could do and getting better, and the players and the teammates that we got when it comes to those grown-up decisions. That's not me." Translation: I'm not getting involved in your organizational politics. I'm not giving you ammunition to use against me. I'm staying in my lane and handling my business. But perhaps the most telling moment of the entire interview came when a reporter tried to get Shedeur to praise his now former coaches, clearly hoping for an emotional response or a controversial statement. The reporter asked about Kevin Stefanski, Tommy Rees, and the other coaches who worked with him. Shedeur's response? "See, now you trying to get me in sticky business." He refused to take the bait, refused to say anything that could be twisted or used against him. Instead, he gave a diplomatic answer about how it takes a village to develop a player, and thanked all the coaches who helped him, not just the ones the reporter mentioned. This is a young man who understands the game within the game. He knows that every word he says will be analyzed, dissected, and potentially weaponized. So he chooses his words carefully, says what needs to be said without giving anyone ammunition to use against him. It's a level of media savvy that typically takes years to develop. But Shedeur came into the league already possessing it, thanks in large part to watching his father navigate similar situations throughout his career. Let's talk about what Shedeur actually accomplished this season, because the narrative around him has been so clouded by organizational dysfunction that his actual performance has been somewhat overlooked. In different games throughout the season, Shedeur showed different pieces of what makes a complete NFL quarterback: red zone efficiency, third down conversion ability, field awareness, and pocket presence. The ability to make throws under pressure with a compromised offensive line. Leadership in the huddle when games were on the line. He said, "As a quarterback, I showed different pieces in different games to all add up to one complete quarterback." And that's what I had to get to in those situations. Red zone situations, field goal situations, third down situations, where you're at on the field situations. So, it was a lot of situations that was good. I feel like this was a good learning year for me, and I'm excited for it, because moving forward, I'll be prepared. I'll have actual realistic reps versus players and versus other players on other teams, and everything. What Shedeur is describing is a quarterback who's ready to make the leap. He's got the experience now. He's seen the different looks defenses give you. He knows what works and what doesn't at this level. Most importantly, he's hungry to prove himself, to show that this season wasn't a fluke or a disappointment, but rather the foundation for something special. The way Shedeur closed the season, winning those final 2 games when it would have been so easy to pack it in, to go through the motions, to protect himself for next year. That tells you everything you need to know about his character. He could have done what the organization seemingly wanted him to do, which was to fail spectacularly enough to justify bringing in another quarterback. Instead, he fought, he competed, he won. Think about the pressure of that situation. You're a rookie quarterback. Your head coach's job is on the line, though you don't know he's about to be fired. Your own future with the team is uncertain. You're playing with backup offensive linemen, backup receivers against a Bengals team that still has 2 of the most dangerous receivers in football. The easy thing, the safe thing, would be to not take risks, to not put anything on tape that could be used against you. But that's not who Shedeur Sanders is. An observer vividly highlighted his performance. Big plays back-to-back in the middle of the defense. No Carson Swedinger. Denzel Ward was out of this game too. Carson Swedinger out of this game too. Backups everywhere. 2 backup corners that held up against T. Higgins and Jamar Chase the whole game. But that don't matter either. The frustration in that voice is palpable, because it's clear Shedeur did more with less than any rookie quarterback should be expected to do. And yet, there are still people within and around the Browns organization who never wanted to see him succeed. There's a lot of people that never wanted to see him play, and they was willing to go that route to figure out how far could they ride it, so he don't got to play. This is the ugly truth of NFL politics. Sometimes decisions about players aren't made based on talent or performance, but on ego, on draft investment, on organizational politics that have nothing to do with winning football games. The fact that Shedeur survived this season with his confidence intact is truly remarkable. When asked if he felt he'd done enough to be the starter next year, he simply said, "I'm always the same. Confidence-wise, I'm there." That's not arrogance. That's not cockiness. That's a young man who knows his worth, who's done the work, who's put in the reps, who's survived the trial by fire, and who's ready for whatever comes next. Looking ahead to the off-season, Shedeur's priorities speak volumes about who he is as a person. First and foremost, I got to go see Shadow, go hang out with him for a bit. I heard he got some Christmas gifts for me. Family first, always. Then, really, just be with the family. Then get back to work and connecting with the guys earlier. Connecting with just getting better. Looking at everything that happened this year and what transpired, and going into next year with a fresh mind. This is a man with a plan. He's not running away from what happened this season. He's going to study it, learn from it, use it as fuel for next year. He's going to build those relationships with his teammates early. Establish that chemistry and trust that makes great offenses work. He's going to put in the work in the film room, in the weight room, on the practice field, so that when next season comes around, he's ready to silence any remaining doubters. The work always be the same. That's one thing as a family, just being a Sanders. That's what work is, and we always continue to do it. So just working, but know what you're working towards, and know the opponent. This is the Sanders family mentality in a nutshell. Work ethic, is non-negotiable. Preparation is paramount. But it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart, knowing your opponent, understanding what you need to improve, and attacking those weaknesses systematically. The off-season Shedeur is describing is one focused on building what he calls that I factor, those moments where risky plays fall in your direction because you've built the trust, the chemistry, the understanding with your teammates. He emphasized, it takes a lot of relationships, and that's what I'm happy this off-season I'll be able to build with those guys and whoever is coming to the program. Notice that last part, whoever is coming to the program, not whoever the Browns bring in, but whoever is coming to join what Shedeur is building. It's a subtle shift in language, but it shows a quarterback who's taking ownership, who's establishing himself as a leader, regardless of what the front office does. The Cleveland Browns now face a truly crucial off-season. They have a rookie quarterback who showed flashes of brilliance, despite being arguably set up to fail. They have a coaching vacancy that could define the next decade of their franchise. They have a fan base that's tired of the losing, tired of the dysfunction, tired of being the punchline of NFL jokes. The decisions they make in the coming months will determine whether Shedeur Sanders becomes another what-if story in Cleveland's long history of quarterback failures, or whether he becomes the franchise quarterback they've been desperately searching for since they returned to the league. What's clear from Shedeur's interview is that he's not waiting around for the Browns to make up their minds about him. He's taking control of his own narrative, his own development, his own future. Whether that future is in Cleveland or elsewhere remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. Shedeur Sanders is not going to be anyone's victim. He's not going to be the scapegoat for an organization's failures. He's not going to let anyone sabotage his career without fighting back. The firing of Kevin Stefanski and the disrespectful way it was handled might actually be a blessing in disguise for Shedeur. It exposed the dysfunction within the organization for everyone to see. It showed that the Browns still haven't figured out how to be a professional operation. It demonstrated that the problems in Cleveland go far deeper than coaching or quarterback play. And it gave Shedeur the opportunity to show the world exactly who he is. A confident, mature, savvy young quarterback who refuses to be broken by circumstances that would crush lesser players. As the NFL offseason kicks into high gear, as coaching searches begin and draft boards are assembled, keep your eyes on Shedeur Sanders, because this is a young man who just survived one of the most challenging rookie seasons in recent memory, who faced alleged sabotage from within his own organization, who found out his head coach was fired through social media, and who still managed to close the season with 2 straight wins and his dignity intact. That's not just impressive, that's remarkable. That's the kind of mental toughness, resilience, and character that defines franchise quarterbacks. The Browns tried to break him. The circumstances conspired against him. The deck was stacked from day one. But Shedeur Sanders is still standing, still confident, still ready to prove himself. And that should terrify every team that might have to face him next season. Because there's nothing more dangerous than a talented player with something to prove, and a chip on his shoulder the size of Cleveland. Now it's your turn to weigh in. Do you think the Browns sabotaged Shedeur's rookie season? Should Cleveland commit to him as their franchise quarterback? Or are they already planning to draft his replacement? Was the firing of Kevin Stefanski justified? Or is this just more organizational dysfunction from a team that can't get out of its own way? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get a discussion going about what really happened in Cleveland this season and what it means for Shedeur Sanders' future. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most fascinating quarterback situations in the NFL, make sure you smash that like button. It helps the algorithm show this video to more football fans who need to hear the truth about what's going on in Cleveland. Subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss our coverage of the NFL's biggest stories, controversies, and behind-the-scenes drama. We're going to be following Shedeur's journey closely this offseason, tracking every development in the Browns' coaching search, and bringing you all the insider information you need to understand where this franchise is headed. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next in this saga. This is just the beginning of the Shedeur Sanders story, and something tells me the best chapters are yet to be written.